Fusible web and fusible interfacing sound the same, don't they? They both say fusible, they're both iron-on, even the packets can look the same, but they actually do very different things. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video so that you are no longer confused by the difference between them. Who am I? I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. You, my lovely, are very, very welcome. Let's start by looking at the difference between them. This is the two of them here. Now on the left we have a fusible web, and it is, as I'm handling it, you can hear it is very scrunchy. It's like paper. It feels a bit like baking paper that you'd use in your kitchen. Now the paper bit we don't actually use. What ends up being used is this bit on the back, which is the fusible web itself. But as we are using it, we keep it all together in its paper form. Now you can buy it in sheets, in packets, or you can buy it off the roll if you are in a quilt shop. Or even online quilt shops will sell this off the roll as well. Then this one here is a fusible interfacing, and you can see already how different that looks and feels compared to our fusible web. So straight away it is like a fabric, and it's floppy, it's not papery, there is no sound if I hold it up to the mic. Now both of them have a glue on them. So on our fusible interfacing, our glue is the rough side on the back, and I don't know if I hold that up to camera, you can just see it's slightly more textured and a bit bobbly. That side is quite smooth on this side, on the kind of fabricy side. On our fusible web, the actual fusible web itself, this is the sticky part. The paper isn't. The paper ultimately gets discarded. But for now, just know that this bit here is the sticky side. So when we get our fusible web, you'll feel that it's smooth and papery one side, and it is a bit rough with the gauze on the other side. I have pulled this apart to show you, but generally it all stays together until you are ready to use it. So that is the difference. This one feels quite thick. I guess it's like paper, and then your interfacing feels a bit like fabric with a rough back on the back. Okay, so what are we going to use them for? So our fusible web sticks one fabric on top of another fabric. So what we'd do is we'd iron our fusible web on the back of the fabric that we want to stick on to the background fabric. I've got a whole video on this, which I will link up in the description below, which goes into detail about how to do this. But you end up with a shape or a letter or something like that stuck on to your fabric. It is washable, by the way, but this is a permanent stick. But when we've stuck our shape down, we generally stitch round the edge. So that is a fusible web. But what about fusible interfacing? With our fusible interfacing, we use it to give structure and stability to fabric. So although it feels a little bit floppy on its own here, when we have pressed it and stuck it onto the back of a piece of fabric, that piece of fabric now has some structure. Okay, so if I was making a bag handle, for instance, you can see immediately how much stiffer that becomes than the actual fabric itself. And in fact, even the interfacing on its own is quite floppy. The fabric on its own is quite floppy. But when we have stuck the interfacing onto the fabric, we get a structured new bit of fabric that we can use, as I said, for bag handles, or for cuffs or collars, or the buttonhole stays down the front of a shirt. So it has a whole different practical use than our fusible web, which sticks one thing onto another. If you want to stick things together, use your fusible web. If you want some structure and stability, then you are using interfacing. I have got a whole video on the different weights of interfacing and when you would use each one. I've also got a video tutorial on how to attach fusible interfacing, which is pretty similar to your fusible web, but not exactly the same. So do check out the links in the description below that you can go and watch those ones. As a quick roundup of the projects that you would use each for: fusible web, think decorative. So think applique, decorative patches on clothes. Even quick repairs like hemming tape is actually fusible web, but in strip form. So that's where the fusible web comes into its own. Whereas with your fusible interfacing, you could use that for your collars, your cuffs, your button stays, as I said, but also for bag making, for home decor, anything that you need some structure, even fabric pots where you need them to stand up straight, you would use your fusible interfacing. If you're a beginner and you've got some scraps, you might want to try a couple of little projects. So this one is a fusible heart applique that I've taught in the tutorial that I'll pop in the description just down below. Very simple and a very good way to get started with your fusible web. You can just stitch this up into a simple little cushion afterwards. Shall I take a breath there? And then if you've got some scraps of fabric and you put some interfacing on the back, you could easily make this into a little bookmark and just stitch around the edge, and you've got a fabric bookmark there. And of course you could do some embroidery and do some fancy stitching, but you can see and feel how this works before you let yourself loose on anything important. So I do hope that has helped with understanding the difference between your fusible web and your fusible interfacing. If you've got any other questions, please do leave them in the comments below. I do answer everybody, and you never know, yours might be highlighted and we'll have a whole video just for you. If this has helped, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on my weekly tips and tutorials. But for now, I will love you and leave you, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.